Good evening and welcome to the virtual candidate forum for Colorado Treasurer. I am Dr. Barbara Whinery and I'm co-director of voter services for the League of Women Voters of Colorado. The 102-year-old League of Women Voters is a political, nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation in democracy. The League works to increase understanding of major policy issues and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Although the League advocates for issues after extensive study, it never endorses or opposes candidates or political parties. The views expressed this evening will be those of the candidates, not of the League of Women Voters. The League rarely hosts events such as this to allow Colorado voters to make an informed choice when filling out their ballot. Again, the League of Women Voters neither supports or opposes candidates. We hope that your time spent here will help you make informed decisions on Election Day, November 8th, 2022. This evening, Joanne Allen, host of podcast Been There, Done That, and formerly of the Colorado Public Radio, will moderate the forum. League members who are helping are Beth Hendricks, who will serve as tonight's timekeeper, and she also has handled candidate communications and logistics. Now I will turn the mic over to Joanne Allen.
Thank you, Barbara. I am pleased to be the moderator of our webinar. The goal of this forum is to present the views of the candidates seeking the office of Treasurer of the state of Colorado in a fair, nonpartisan setting so that you, the voter, can make an informed decision. Before we begin, here are the League guidelines for candidate forums. The ground rules and questions have been given to the candidates. This forum is not a debate. There will be no rebuttals from candidates or comments from the audience. The purpose of this forum is to inform voters through respectful questions and listening. No campaign banners, signs, literature handouts, t-shirts, or other campaign items will be on camera. The candidates will speak first in alphabetical order. Then the second candidate alphabetically will speak first, and then the third candidate will speak first if the third candidate in fact joins us, and so forth and so on. The candidates will have 90 seconds for opening remarks and 60 seconds for a closing statement. 60 seconds will be allowed for responses to questions. Questions will apply to all candidates. However, candidates may choose not to respond to every question. Time limits on responses will be observed strictly. Our timekeeper is Beth Hendricks, and she will hold cards visible to the speaker indicating when 30 seconds remain. When the stop card is shown, the speaker must quickly complete their sentence or thought. As your moderator, I am responsible for enforcing time limits and will interrupt candidates if they go over time. Questions were developed and screened by the League of Women Voters. These questions are broad in nature and cover a variety of issues pertinent to the position of treasurer. The link to this video recording will be posted on League of Women Voters Colorado's YouTube channel tomorrow. The League requests that any recording be only shown in its entirety. The candidates currently available and participating tonight are Lang Sias of the Republican Party and Dave Young of the Democratic Party. We will begin now with opening statements in alphabetical order. Each candidate will have 90 seconds. We begin with Lang Sias.
I hadn't taken my mute off there. First of all, thank you all very much, and for the folks that are watching this or will watch it, for hosting this. I think it's important, and I appreciate you all doing it. My name is Lang Sias, and I am the Republican candidate for state treasurer. And I thought I'd use this first minute or so just to provide a personal background and introduction. I live in Jefferson County with my wife of 24 years and 3 children. Our daughter is a freshman at the School of Mines, and our 2 boys are in 7th and 9th grade in Jefferson County Public Schools, well, where I will add that we really, really like the school they go to and the teachers that they have. I grew up in a small business, literally with one in the basement, and have a real gut level respect for the people who form the bedrock of our economy. I had the privilege of serving in the military for 27 years as a fighter pilot in the Navy and in the Air National Guard, made a number of trips overseas, and have very humbled by the people that I served with. Was also able to serve in our legislature, where I am most proud of both having been fiscally responsible and having reached across the aisle to actually solve important problems in a bipartisan way. That included increasing equity in education funding, bringing more transparency to our healthcare decisions, and most relevant to this office, working in a bipartisan fashion to bring reform to our state public pension system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we go to Dave Young.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank the League for hosting this event tonight. I'm Dave Young. I'm your state treasurer. I've had the honor of leading the Colorado Department of the Treasury for almost 4 years now. You know, the number one job of the treasurer is to protect the taxpayers' money. And the good news is that even through very turbulent economic times, I've kept your money safe. And let me share a little bit about myself. I worked as a middle school math teacher in Greeley for almost 25 years, and we still live about a block from that school. I never expected to run for office. My sister is significantly disabled and was homeless for a year. So I ran to fix that problem and also to improve education funding. After my teaching career, I served almost 8 years in the state legislature. 4 years of that was spent on the Joint Budget Committee crafting the state's balanced budget. As state treasurer, I make sure that tax dollars are invested safely, transparently, and in a way that benefits working Coloradans across the state. I have ensured Colorado maintains a strong credit rating to save you money. I'm launching the Colorado Secure Savings Program to help 1 million people here in the state of Colorado save for retirement while saving taxpayers $18 billion. And I launched the $250 million small business loan program called Climber to help Colorado's economy recover from the economic downturn. I've improved financial strength of PARA retirement fund that supports thousands
Okay,
of first
Dave.
responders.
Thank
First
you.
responders and educators. Oh, I missed the stop sign. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. Thank you to both of our candidates tonight. Now let's go to our first question, and we will start with Lang. You will have, both of you, 60 seconds to answer this question, and it is, Lang, why are you running?
Well, thank you very much. And I am running to serve as a champion for our taxpayers. Colorado has gotten too expensive with one party controlling absolutely everything. We, in fact, lead the nation in the dollar cost of inflation. The average Colorado family is now paying over $950 more every single month than they were at the beginning of last year, just to try and keep up. Nobody has been hit harder than our working families, who are making tough choices as they struggle to pay for groceries, gas, and school supplies. Meanwhile, our state budget has grown by over 25% in 4 years, and taxpayers are being hit with additional fees and expensive regulations. As a champion for taxpayers, I'll fight for transparency, for accountability, and for the efficient spending of our tax dollars. We simply cannot ask our families to pay more. We have to help them hold on to more of their hard-earned dollars. Thank you.
Okay, and Dave, that question to you, why are you running now?
Thank you. It's a great question. I'm running to continue the great work that I've been doing to keep the taxpayer money safe. And as I mentioned before, through tough economic times, I've proven that I can do that job, the number one job of the treasurer, very successfully. I mentioned the Colorado Secure Savings Program. That is a program to help 1 million Coloradans who don't have access to retirement savings plan today begin to save for retirement. That's 40% of our private sector workforce. We've actually launched the pilot for that today, and we're selecting small businesses and employees across the state to test our systems. I believe that everyone deserves a sustainable and dignified retirement, and I'll continue to do my work as a member of the PARA Board of Directors to ensure that it's fully funded by 2048. And in my second term, I want to address infrastructure problems, affordable housing, water, transportation, broadband, even our K-12 schools, their buildings, with the financial resources we need to actually solve these problems.
Okay, thank you for those answers. We'll go to question number 2. Should Colorado's tax be changed? If so, how? 60 seconds, and this time we begin with Dave.
Thank you. One of my goals is that every student in Colorado should be able to achieve their full potential through the dedicated work of our public school educators. But right now, Colorado has the lowest competitive salaries for teachers in the country. We are even below Mississippi at this point. And that's because our tax system is not fair. It doesn't produce the necessary funds to meet essential needs in any part of our state's budget. I believe that everyone should pay their fair share of taxes, but the wealthy in Colorado are not paying their fair share under the current structure. I've been appointed to serve on the Tax Policy Task Force by the legislature, along with 20 other tax policy experts to examine all aspects of our taxing systems. That's income tax, property tax, sales tax, and many others. And I'm excited to continue my work on that tax force to establish a fair tax system.
Thank you. And so now, Lang, the answer, 60 seconds to should Colorado's tax system be changed? If so, and how?
As a champion for taxpayers, I will absolutely look at how our tax structure can be improved to make our state more attractive and more affordable. We want to be a state that people want to move to and not become one of those states that people are scrambling to escape. And certainly that means keeping our tax burden reasonable while providing essential services. But it also means looking at our entire model, our entire revenue and spending model. That includes looking at the costs of fees and regulations that drive up prices. For example, new building codes that have driven up the cost of new houses by between $12,000 and $13,000. It means asking if it makes sense to have a huge portion of our revenue and spending controlled by unelected commissioners of enterprises, which undermines representative government. And it means spending efficiently, like reducing the administrative bloat that takes pay away from our great teachers.
Thank you. So now on to question number 3. How do you feel about the Colorado Taxpayer Bill of Rights, better known as TABOR? 6 seconds, we begin with you, Lang.
Well, thanks very much. I have always been a strong supporter of our right to vote on our tax increases and on tax refunds. And this is a clear distinction with my opponent, whom I respect. But while treasurer, he used the power and influence of that position to try and end our TABOR refunds forever. So if he had gotten his way, you wouldn't have seen a penny of the $750 you just received. Now, I support TABOR because it forces a conversation between our elected officials and their constituents, and it requires our politicians to justify how they spend our tax dollars and to account for the actual results that they achieve. TABOR does not prevent tax increases or the retaining refunds, but it does require voter approval. This has been done successfully hundreds of times across our state. All that's required is a conversation and an explanation of how money has been spent and building a good reputation with our voters for following through on what we promised them. And I think that's important.
Okay, Dave, your feelings about TABOR?
Well, I'm a lifelong Coloradan, and I'm interested in producing great outcomes for our state. TABOR has been our tax policy for 30 years, and we can see the outcomes it has produced. K-12 is underfunded. I talked about the impact that it's having on competitive teacher salaries. Students and teachers are left without the resources they need to be successful. And higher education is even more underfunded, which has resulted in mountains of student debt. A lack of water is a result of the fact that we are unable to fund innovative water projects that would help us be better prepared for climate change. We've got a transportation system that's in stress, lacks the necessary funding to fuel the future needs of our residents and our businesses, and at-risk people like my sister, children and seniors that desperately need and sometimes are denied life-saving services. So we need a rational tax policy here in the state of Colorado. TABOR is an irrational tax system that's produced bad outcomes for our state.
Okay. Now for our fourth question, do you support state licensing of gun dealers? That question goes to Dave first.
I appreciate the question. When I was in the State House in 2013, I voted for common sense gun safety legislation. And you know, Colorado has passed background check laws and the extreme protection order law to keep guns out of the hands of those who may be a danger to themselves or others. So I'm supportive of those bills. That said, I must tell you that the Treasury and the Treasurer operate in the executive branch. And this particular question really deals with policy issues that are really not involved in the actual work of the treasurer. So while I am giving you my opinion on this issue of and supportive of it, it is not really germane to the exact operation of the office, which is protecting the taxpayer dollars.
Well, Lang, what is your answer to do you support state licensing of gun dealers?
Well, you know, I think it is entirely appropriate for the treasurer to weigh in on matters that are primarily of economic importance to the state. I also think that it is important for the treasurer not to engage on issues that do not relate to the actual functions of the treasury or to economic issues generally. And so I will pledge not to, as treasurer, engage or have a voice in issues that do not involve economic policy or the treasury roles. And so I hope you'll respect my decision just not to engage on this particular question.
Moving on to question 5, by the end of June 2022, the Colorado Department of the Treasury was responsible for investing more than $20 billion. That's billion dollars with a B. There is an investment trade-off. In general, the safer a security, the less interest it pays. What is the current risk level of the Treasury's portfolio? And is that the appropriate trade-off? We start with you, Lang.
Sure. I think it's important to understand that the rules for what the Treasury can invest in with taxpayer dollars are set in statute and are very, very restrictive by design. There is a focus on income, but most important is safety and liquidity. And I think that those rules are in place for good reason, and I would not seek to change them. It's also important to understand that Treasury investing is done by a team of investment professionals on the Treasury staff, and the performance of the Treasury investments should not change very much relative to benchmarks between different treasurers. And so the big challenges facing us going forward, and I think Treasurer Young would probably agree, are how to invest in a rising inflation environment and in a rising interest rate environment. It is extremely challenging, and it is why we need fiscal and monetary and regulatory policies that will get our inflation under control quickly. Thank you. Sorry, I went a little over there. I apologize.
Yes. Let's move on to the incumbent. Dave, your response?
Thank you. And I think that the response that we just heard is pretty accurate, actually. I refer to the fact that safety is the #1 job of the treasurer. And so, so I think people sometimes say, well, why can't we get better returns on our portfolio? But the thing that you always need to remember is that the $20 billion that we're investing is actually appropriated by the legislature. It's already in the system to be used by policy. And so we want to be sure that that money is safe, but we also want to be sure it's liquid when it's needed. We can actually write the transactions that pay for the policies that the legislature has enacted. So yield is third. I will tell you that over 90% of our investment portfolio is AAA, AA, or single A, or its equivalent. So you can see that, and we've had a flight to quality in this environment to protect that taxpayer dollar over the time that I've been in office.
Okay, gentlemen. We have now come to the time for closing statements. You have 60 seconds, and Dave, you start.
Very good. Well, I want to again thank the league for sponsoring this event. I always enjoy the opportunity to share my views and appreciate the work that you've done to put this together. And I've referred to this several times, but I really want to make the point that the number one job of the state treasurer is to protect taxpayers' money. And, you know, I think sometimes we get into the weeds on a lot of different issues, but through really tough economic times, I've proven that I can keep your money safe. And so I have a track record of performance, and I've worked hard to make sure that our taxpayer dollars are invested safely and transparently. Also, I want our state to survive, but not just survive, thrive. And so the work I do lifts everybody up in the state. I want our state to really be the best it can be. And the work that I do is designed to lift people up in every corner of the state. So ballots went out today. You'll see it in your mailbox, maybe Wednesday or Thursday. I ask for your support when you vote so that I can continue the great work that I've been doing as your state treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Young. And now for your closing statement, Lang Sias.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I want to thank you all and everybody that's listening for participating today. You know, I think that this state, we need to restore some balance to our economic leadership at the statewide level. And that's what I'm looking to do. The pendulum has swung awfully far in one direction with one party in control. I like my opponent. I know him personally and I like him. We just have different philosophies on how your money, taxpayer dollars, are best spent. And as a taxpayer champion, I think that it belongs in your pocket, in your family budget, and I will work very, very hard to keep it there. My opponent, with all due respect, has some very pleasant catchphrases, but at the end of the day, all of them involve more taxpayer dollars from hardworking folks winding up in the hands of politicians. And I think it's time for some of that money to be returned to our taxpayers. I'm Lang Sias. I'll be your taxpayer champion, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Sias. And this concludes tonight's candidate forum. We hope you were able to learn about each candidate for this important position and will cast your ballot in an informed and confident manner. A big thank you again to each candidate for their time and their willingness to serve our beautiful state. And now I'll hand it back to Barb.
Thank you, Joanne. We appreciate your time and expertise in moderating this forum. Thank you too to the audience for your interest in attending this forum. We applaud your efforts to inform yourselves. The League of Women Voters would like to remind those attending the forum that the views expressed this evening are those of the candidates and not of the sponsoring organizations. Some of the positions expressed here may be considered opinions and not facts agreed upon by experts. We encourage all voters to learn more and do their own research to get factual information. We encourage you to learn more about the candidates in this election and about all the state and local ballot issues. Vote 411 is your best source for this information. You can find out what is on your what is on your ballot, and it points you directly to the candidates and issues you'll be voting on, with information about your voter status and more. Questions concerning registration and ballot mailings may be directed to your county clerk, and Vote 411 can help you find that phone number. Join us Wednesday, October 19th for a presentation by the League of Women Voters on the 11 state ballot issues. League representatives will briefly explain each issue, give some background information, and offer pros and cons. This meeting will be via Zoom. Check the League's website and/or Facebook for registration information. Watch for other League and election events, which are posted on our website, LWVcolorado.org, and Facebook at LWVColorado. Remember that we vote by mail in Colorado. Ballots will be mailed out October 17th, which is today, and must be returned by November 8th at 7 p.m. You can leave a ballot at a designated drop box or at a polling center. You can also return your ballot through the U.S. Postal Service. If you choose to mail your ballot, please make sure you do it at least 8 days before November 8th and verify that you have the appropriate postage. The League of Women Voters mission is empowering voters, defending democracy. Remember that you are the one who makes democracy work. Vote and good evening. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.